Fred here, welcome back to the Gear Obsession channel. In this episode, we will be taking a look at a Strider SMF Clone from DHGate. So DHGate was kind enough to send me this for review. I obviously knew it was a clone because they sell for the unbelievable low price of $73.99. And anyone with a lick of sense and someone who is, not just coming out of under a rock or naive, knows that these Striders, the real ones, run between $400 and $500. And if you come across a deal that's too good to be true, like something that costs $500 and it's only $75 here or even cheaper, you're not getting the real thing. And if you think you are, you need brain surgery. You need a cranial replacement or whatever. So anyway, what I want to do is, I don't want to get into the whole philosophy of clones and counterfeits and all that till the end of the video. What I want to do right up front is to review this knife, and then we'll go ahead and talk about that. So let's take a close look. Now again, I had gotten this from DHGate. For those of you not familiar with DHGate.com, which I'll be providing links below, they're sort of like a Amazon of China, like Fast Tech. But DHGate, actually, I'm surprised because this knife got to me within like a week or two, extremely quick. So I was very surprised how fast it showed up in my PO box. So what this is a 3/4 grind SMF double gunner grip, as you can see there. We have a green G10 scale on one side, and we have a titanium alloy on the other side. I also had requested a stonewash blade because I like the stonewash kind of look. So they went ahead and hooked me up. Now, the purpose of this knife, as well as the real thing, would be all-purpose. Let's be quite honest. This thing is big enough for tactical. Obviously, you could do EDC, unless, of course, it's too big for you for EDC. But it's light because it's G10 and titanium alloy. It's and we'll talk about that spec here in a minute. And it's also good for survival because, quite frankly, when this frame block locks up, it is like a rock. I mean, this thing just feels like one solid piece, and I'm sure that the real one does also. So it's quite a knife, and it's very comfortable. I'll tell you what, I usually wait till I get to the tests to start talking about the ergonomics. But the first thing when I opened this up was, besides the problems, what I'll talk about here in a minute, is the ergos. I thought, oh wow, this really feels good, and it feels good when you choke up on the blade. And then I went ahead and did a reverse grip, and I'm like, oh, holy crap. Okay, I can see why Mick Strider sells a lot of his knives. This thing is probably the most comfortable reverse grip knife I've ever laid hands on while still maintaining such great ergonomics, even with choking up on the front choil or back here. It's like, no matter how you're holding this, it feels awesome, and yet it's huge. Look how thick that blade stock is. So I understand the concept and the design of this knife thanks to this clone. So let's talk about this. The blade is a stonewashed 4-inch spear point blade, and it's made of D2. Now, this is heat treated to an HRC of 59. Now, the real thing, which this is not, would be a CPM 154 or an S30V type of steel, a stainless steel, whereas this is D2, which is sort of like right on below the edge of being able to have enough chromium and stuff to be classified as stainless. So it's sort of like a semi-stainless. The country of origin of this knife is China, not the US like the real thing. And this is a frame lock. Look at that. Nice beefy frame lock there. It has the hinder stabilizer right there. Keeps you from over extending that frame, as you can see right there. So you can't overextend it because that washer prevents it, which is a good thing. Now the handle is 4.7 inches, and again, it's G10 on one side, titanium alloy on the other, and this is the double gunner. So you get this really, really nice texture, and it's probably right up there with the real thing. It's nice and grippy, and it feels, you know, just perfect on both sides. I really love the texture on this knife. Now, you know, looking at the G10, you know, because, you know, I'm like, okay, well, I got this for 75 bucks, so maybe the things that they're using this are not quite real. So I took a hard look, and the G10 is in fact G10. I could see the layers and everything they use. As a matter of fact, the real thing, you wouldn't even see these lines here. But because this is a cheaper clone, you can see those lines, those layers of G10 right there. Now, I also met with the same skeptic, whatever, on the titanium side. Well, out of the box, this knife was, number one, extremely stiff. So stiff that I literally was just like killing my thumb trying to get this thing out. It was near impossible. And then when I did get this thing out, the frame lock, I would have to grip this thing with two, you know, with my full hand, all my fingers to, you know, just unstick this to get it out. Now it's fine, but you know what? That is a telltale sign that this is titanium, because that's what happens when you have titanium meeting with the stainless steel. It gulls or grips onto it, doesn't want to let go. So what I had to do is take this whole thing apart. I had to disassemble this whole knife just to get it to loosen up. I had to polish a couple of spots where things rub under the washers on the blade. And also I noticed that instead of having a single brass phosphorus washer on each side, it had 3 on each side, because they used thinner ones and they had to stack them, which is ridiculous. And then I put it all together, and then when I put it together, I still could not find that happy medium of blade centering while being tight enough where there was no blade play. It took a very long time to finally get it where the blade wasn't like way off to one side and yet tight enough where there would be no blade play, which is the case now. It came with no blade play, but it came where you had to be Superman to open this knife. And again, to get this thing, you know, loosened up when you fling it open, it took a lot of work. And I had this, and this is typical Strider type of pivot screw, although not exactly the same material, not even the same finish, because his is like Parkerized. I had to use Loctite on this thing once I got it in place, because actually out of the box, while I was messing with it and trying to work it and hopefully try to get it loose at the time, it actually did start to loosen by itself. But then I got the blade play, and I was very surprised when that happened. So once I got this to where I wanted it, when I reassembled this knife, I had to use Loctite, and now it's permanently set in the position that I like. Now, to get rid of the problem with the frame lock sticking, I used some graphite on the face of the frame lock right in here where it meets the back of the blade, and that sort of helped fix things. It's not a permanent solution. I'll probably have to do that for forever. Now let's get back to the specs here. The handle, we went over the handle materials. The handle size is 4.7 inches, so that's basically the length of this one. It's closed. The open length is 9 inches, so you can tell it's a very big knife. And again, the closed length is 5 1/8 inches. 5 1/8 inch closed, which doesn't make sense to me because I just said that the closed length was 5. So let me 5 inches for the handle or the closed length. How about that? Closed length or the handle. Now the weight of this is absolutely incredible. I put it on my scale. It got 5.7 ounces, which is actually a couple of less ounces than the real thing or the specs on the website. So pretty neat. Now let's go over some of the things that are kind of different between this and the real thing. First of all, the double gunner grip SMFs tend to have thinner have thinner. Let's go here. The G10 is a little bit thinner. The titanium is definitely a little bit thinner, which makes it so it's a lot easier because the G10 is not as thick to move this, and less prone to sticking because there's less surface area on the back of the blade, kind of thing. Unless, it's more of the Lego model style thickness on an SMF double gunner, which is kind of unique. Other differences, let's look at the side of the blade here. And you can see the logo, which they did a pretty good job of, but the new Strider knives do not come with the Pole Boss heat treat stamp there, and this still does, so that's not right. And a lot of his knives don't even say USA anymore. Another difference is if you go and purchase a true Strider 3/4 hollow grind, this is a hollow grind here, it's not going to come up as far as this. It's actually not going to come up to the hole. It's going to be down here, the grind, right? Sort of like that. So that's another difference outright. Another difference, when I did disassemble this, was these nuts on the back of the screws. When I took these out, I think it was with a T9 Torx, there was no knurling on the nut. And the real thing, all these nuts that are sort of in the titanium here have knurling around them, and these were smooth. So there's another difference. Another very obvious difference that I know you professional knife collectors out there probably saw this right off the bat when I turned this over to the titanium side, is there's no hole in the frame lock right here. See that? There should be a little tiny hole right there. And that hole, is drilled all the way through, and on the other side there's a ball bearing placed in that hole that acts as the retention bearing. And that retention bearing basically goes into this hole right here, where now you can see a lot of dirt, but it goes into that hole right there, and it helps with the retention of the knife. So there's another difference. Another obvious difference is it came in this box. Real Striders come in a plastic bag. This came in a Chris Reeves box. So another pretty strange thing. So anyway, let's go ahead and go through the tests, and then we'll talk a little bit about clones and counterfeits. So first are the ergonomics. The ergonomics are absolutely outstanding. Any way you look at it. I guess my only criticism when it comes to ergos is the clip is right-handed only, tip up, and that's your only choice. You have no other mounting options. Next, we'll talk about blade centering. Out of the box, it was even a little bit more to the left than what you're seeing now. That's after my 4 hours of work trying to get this knife the way where it was reviewable, where I felt good that I could recommend it to some people, and again, we'll get to that. The retention, really good retention. No problem with that. It's not going to come out unless you intentionally, intentionally put enough, momentum to get this blade out. It's not going to open up in your pocket. It's really good. Lockup. Lockup has been good out of the box and here, even right now, and that's exactly where you want it. It's completely behind, but you still have a lot of room to wear to the right. And while we're looking at this, another difference between the real thing and the clone here is you can see how the back of the blade is straight. Most, if not all, the Striders, this would be kind of curved. It wouldn't be like cut straight across like that, the back of the blade. There would be a curve to it. But really good lockup. No up and down play, no side to side play. It came with no up and down or side to side play. Everything was awesome now and then. Next, we'll go ahead and do a paper cut. One thing, I said I did a lot of work to this, but I did not sharpen it because I wanted to see how good it was out of the box. And very, very sharp. No problem there. Well, no problem. I think there might be a spot or two that might have caught the paper there, but really, really sharp, man. Even catches my nail there. Next is my favorite, except for Bear Grylls knives. Just kidding. And that's, I'm going to stab this piece of saw pine, make sure we don't have any fundamental problems with heat treatment. So I'm going to go ahead and stab this and rock this back and forth a little bit. You can see it's really in there. And let's make sure we have no problem with the tip breaking, and we can see that it is perfectly fine. This blade is really impressive. The thick stock that comes on the Striders and even the clothes here are incredible. To open this knife, by the way, you have a hole which you use. You don't use these. Some people might think these are thumb studs. Let me tell you, if you try to use this like a thumb stud, it's going to wear your thumb out really quick, because the purpose of what appears to be thumb studs is actually a blade stop. You don't have a blade stop back here. This is the blade stop. It comes up and presses against the scales of the knife right there, which is very stable. I think the real thing only presses against the titanium side, and there's actually a gap, a tiny little gap between the G10 side and the blade stop. I could be mistaken, but I've read a couple of things about that. While we're here, another difference is right here, the knurling here on the frame lock where you release. This sometimes on a lot of the Chris Reeves, not Chris Reeves dives, but Dick Strider dives, there might be a little bit of a nice smooth indent in here where it actually, when you look it forward, the knurling gets a little thinner and then thicker. It gets thinner in the middle and then comes back a little thicker here, because it's sort of smoothed out down in there, ground out, or whatever you want to call it. Alright, so whether I recommend this knife, as a knife, clone or counterfeit or whatever aside, out of the box, I'm not going to recommend it for just anybody. I will recommend it for people who know how to get in there and smooth out knives and maybe disassemble them and work out, you know, all the sloppiness or tightness or whatever. This was very hard, even for me. I've been messing with knives for a very long time, and it probably took me altogether like 2 to 4 hours to get everything where I felt like I'd like this knife. So for me, at first I wasn't able to do this review, and then after I worked everything out, and then I even had to use not only the graphite but oil. This oil actually didn't work out too good, the zero friction. I actually ended up using frog lube of all things for the pivot and in the washers, and then again the graphite for the face head or the face of the lock bar or the frame lock. It's now I'm really liking it. It just flies open and it releases all with one finger, no problem. It's still even a little stiff. It still can loosen up a little more as I use it, but now I like it. Now it's running smooth and everything is perfect, and I can recommend it with the way it is now. So I recommend it for people who know how to do this and don't feel bad about buying counterfeits, and for people that want something that runs really good out of the box, I'm not going to recommend it. So, how do I feel about counterfeit? And I know that some of you have stuck around in this review because you really want to know what I think. This is my opinion, and this is not law. I don't claim to be a lawyer or an expert or whatever. But I know in the U.S., producing exact copies with, like this example with the Strider and their logo and this close, it would be illegal to manufacture and sell these. In the U.S. at least. I just burped on camera. So I'm a pig. On the other hand, it's not illegal to buy them. So I don't feel like I'm doing something unlawful, unless I'm trying to sell this to somebody, which I'm not. But in a nutshell, let me try an analogy here on what I think. Let's say you're in New York City, and this is like real world life kind of stuff I could even describe. Downtown Manhattan, guys selling watches. Hey, dude, want to buy a watch? Got all watches here and everything. Got a Rolex for unbelievable low price of $50. Now, who would not think, or put it this way, who would think that someone on the street in New York is selling a Rolex for $50 and thinks it's real? Really? And that's, you're buying this from China. It's a $500 knife, and you're getting it for $73.99. Okay? No one should think that this is a real knife. So, the other thing I sort of feel about it, if I'm in the market for a $75 knife, I'm obviously not in the market for a $500 design or custom design knife. I never would be going out to buy one. So I don't feel like Mick Strider or Mr. Reeves or Mr. Hinderer are really losing any money, because I never really was in the market for a custom knife. On the other hand, if I'm someone who doesn't have a lot of money and there's no way I could afford one of these custom Strider knives, and there are no cheap options in the case of the Strider, okay, and so I wasn't going to buy a real Strider at this point, I could get to try one out. And then one day when I grow up and I get more money, if I like the design, which I do, and when I do grow up, I'll get one. For real. I am definitely, this is on my long list now. I would have never considered one of these knives. And now that I've had this clone in my hand and I feel what the ergonomics are all about and everything, I want a real one. So guess what? This clone just sold me on getting a real one when I can. So, does anybody get hurt with these clones? Sure. People trying to pass these off purposefully as the real thing and taking advantage of naive people. Yeah, there's somebody getting hurt there. Another thing is if the small distributors, like if I were to buy when it comes time for me to buy my Strider knife, I am going to go to Strider or go directly to the company to buy the knife, so I know I'm getting a real one, because I know there are a lot of clones out there. So the people that get hurt are the little distributors on the internet, because they don't have their reputation yet. They're up and comers, so people are not going to trust them to buy the expensive custom knives. So that's really the only person I can see that really does get hurt. I mean, I'm missing some things, but I feel like they're the ones that are probably the ones most likely getting hurt by the whole clone and counterfeit kind of thing. Now, Strider, they can do something like Hinderer did, okay? They joined up, as a matter of fact, I think I got it right here. They joined up with Kershaw in this case and came out with the Cairo and the Cairo 2. They say, okay, well, not everyone could afford my expensive knives right now, so we'll make a production knife with my classic design here, sold by Kershaw in this case. So Mr. Rick Hinderer, look at that right there. And this was like, I don't know, $35. And guess what? I ran right out and bought the real thing, the real Kershaw Hinderer design knife. And one day when I grow up, I know I'm going to get a Rick Hinderer knife when my YouTube channel becomes rich and famous. Because I like his designs. They're awesome. So, that's sort of how I feel in a nutshell. I wish it would have been nice if they maybe changed this not to say Strider on it. I don't feel personally good, and I don't feel morally well about using this knife. So I'm probably not going to carry it around too much, because they put Strider, they put made in USA when it's made in China. I think that's going a little too far for my personal morals. But for those of you who really can't afford an expensive knife, but yet are very handy and everything, and want a very nice, well-designed knife for now, this is definitely the way to go, and I can recommend it to you. So there you go. I'm going to provide the links below to DHGate. Again, they're sort of like an Amazon of China or the Far East there. Some really good bargains, some really good deals can be had. Just understand this whole thing and you'll get it. Okay? Well, thank you very much for joining me here at the Gear Obsession channel. I really appreciate every friend, viewer, subscriber, and especially you. And I hope you have a great evening. Take care.